Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Let's Get Real with Money and Mindset. Today, Michelle and I are going to cover the ultimate ways to have a stress-free vacation with your kids. So exciting.
Is it possible?
I don't know that it's completely stress-free, but you can do the best you can to make it as enjoyable as possible, for sure. There's definitely ways.
On that note, I just want to start with saying a friend had told me this a long time ago that when you're doing family vacations, and I know we want to say it's going to be relaxing, it's all this, but really, let's put the mindset in there. These are about family memory making opportunities. And when we go in with that mindset, knowing that, we're going to be on the go, we're going to be doing stuff with the kids, we're going to do all these things, it helps just right off the bat, alleviate some of that, like, yes, you might actually need your self-care and your time like right after, and like maybe even plan that, have like an extra day off from work just to like, kids go somewhere else. Mommy needs to decompress from this adventure. But that's what this is about. It's creating those memories, those lasting memories that you're going to have with your kids, because they're going to be gone soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, setting that intention right off the bat is so important. And the other thing too is, the more you do it, the easier it gets and the better your kids do with it. I've had over the years, I had people that did I'm going to wait until they're this old. And I personally started traveling with our kids, one, because our family is a long distance away from where we currently live. But we started them as little infants traveling, and it was like 15 hours to drive back to see family. But what that did is we could set those intentions right from the beginning as they were little, and it grew with them. And so now they're awesome travelers. They love to travel. And then I've heard from other families that did I'm going to wait until they're older. Well, then even the parents couldn't tolerate sitting that long in a vehicle. And so for all of them, we're on each other's nerves by the end, because none of them, even the adults, were very good at traveling because they just didn't do it. And so it's definitely something you want to incorporate so you can kind of make those patterns, like things that work, get people used to sitting that long. Even if you have breaks, it's really important to set that intention and start early, start young, so even yourself can get used to that type of travel, because it's a whole mind shift game when you're doing a long travel, for sure.
And I love that you said that too, because it's start young, and it's like almost a new routine, because it's going to be that way. And it's knowing also going in that traveling is tiring, right? So like having those conversations and talking about what we do when we're extra tired, or how we can just try to, like, even in a small car, kind of try to avoid each other. And so like, even one of the things that we're going to work on setting up is, and we've done it a couple of times, my kids still are just never good at keeping points. I'm not good at keeping track of points. We're going to try again. But just with the intention of finding each other doing nice things. So like the kindness idea. So like they can give each other points on when they see each other doing good things. And then of course we'll have prizes and stuff that they get to pick. And I actually had found these new books I had bought from Dollar Tree that I forgot about. And I just put them in my bag so I could tangibly hand them something if they're doing really well or something along the way, rather than giving it to them ahead of time, and just having that available. But then also, like, you can have them pick something bigger at the end of the trip if, they're really working on it and trying really hard. Because when I told my husband about this, his first reaction was like, well, Bella's just going to get mad because she's going to be the one giving everyone points, and she's not going to get any points, and she's just going to get mad. I'm like, it's not that we can't as parents give points too, but just instilling them. So a lot of times we focus on all the fighting and the arguing, and we're like, we just get like that. So let's focus on like the positive energy and really rewarding that and letting them reward that as well.
Right. Yeah. It's certainly a good choice. And back to the whole exhausting on your travels. Through my mind studies, I've realized so many people are like, why do I get so tired when I drive? And then it dawned on me, so your brain is constantly filtering out all the stuff you don't need at the moment. So now you're filtering out smells, sights, actions in the car. Your brain's trying to listen to your car to make sure there's not anything going wrong. And it's doing it at 70, 80, 50 miles an hour as you're driving. It's having to filter out thousands of bits of information, millions probably, that you're not even aware of as you drive. So that's part of why you get exhausted, and recognizing that helps you go, oh, that makes sense. so that you're not going, well, why am I always tired? Well, most people are, and it's just because of how our mind is designed, and setting that right away, recognizing that you do almost need a vacation after the vacation. It's just because your brain is working all the time to filter out all that stuff along this trip, let alone having kids fighting or arguing or just even conversation. Even if everything's peaceful, it's still gonna, have be taxing on you, but it's still a great reward.
I love that so much that you brought up and how exhausted we get. So one of the things that we get exhausted with is making decisions, right? So when
Mhm.
we're on the trips, what are some things we can do ahead of time? So, and what are think about some of the things that you notice that your kids or you as a family fight over a lot. So for me, I was like, I've actually been kind of apprehensive. I'm like, we're one of the reasons why we're doing this video is I'm leaving today actually from this video at 2 p.m. around 2-ish or 3-ish. We're taking a 2-week trip, driving to 8 different national parks, just traveling. And my husband's just like a much faster pace and everything. And so even when we travel, so some of you may not know, but we travel around the world for 13 months together as well. So like I would physically get sick along the way because I was just so tired of his pace. And he laughed last night. He's like, well, this is only 2 weeks. But going in, knowing these things, right? Thinking about it ahead of time, what can I do to be proactive about it, right? So one of
Mhm.
the things I noticed, remember the other night is every time my kids in the car, my kids still watch movies together we have one screen in there. So I know a lot of people have iPads so it might not be your problem, but me thinking ahead to what is our problem is that they fight over what movie they're going to watch next. And so then we came up with the idea on our last trip, or it was camping trip, of like them taking turns picking. But then if one picks a movie they don't like, you hear the groans, you hear everything, right? So what I did 2 nights ago was we just made a list of everything that fit in. We have two big DVD cases. Everything that fits into those cases, I just had each kid keep picking in order till they're filled up. So we have over 20 movies, but they're in order from what the kids have already pre-selected. So as soon as it's an opportunity for movie time, we have that split. The next DVD is just going to go in because I knew trying to think proactively, what do we fight about? So my intention was that I would alleviate some of that decision making along the way when they're tired. Like, oh, well, we're just laying back. That's the next movie that's in there. So I want to encourage you moms to think about what are some of those problems for your family that you seem to notice that's something you could do to plan out maybe ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And one of the things that we set intentions with when our little guys were toddlers is I'd fill up a whole box of toys and books, and we set it where if they threw everything on the floor, well, now you get to sit there. We would purposely not pick them up until we stopped for gas, because then it what didn't turn into a game of, oh well, how much can I have mom pick up? Because it's not safe to be reaching around trying to get all this stuff. It's not safe for them, for you, for the driver, the distraction. And so we set that. And so they learned quick, man, if you throw all your toys on the floor and your books, you've got nothing. And so they learned. And, kids are really smart, a lot more than we ever give them credit for. And, a couple times of them unloading that box before we're going to actually stop, they figured out that they need to be, if you get something out of the box and you're trading it, you trade it and put it back in the box if you want things left over. And it came so we only had a couple things that they would accidentally drop, but it didn't turn into this game of, oh, can I unload the box and have mom's interaction then, or dad's, whoever wasn't driving. And it really set them up for that. And same with, like you're saying, the fighting. One of the other things I set up right from the start is when they got old enough where they were doing the bickering and stuff in the car, I said, I will turn around, and I don't care if I'm an hour away from our destination, I will turn around and we will go home. And they didn't take me serious, so they kept bickering. We weren't even 20 miles away, and I put on the brakes, pulled off to the shoulder, and turned around and headed back home. And they're like, oh, no, 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 mom, we'll be good. Promise. I was like, I will give you this one time to change. And they changed and were awesome the rest of the way, but it just shut it down. And now all I have to say is like, remind them one time if they start bickering, that was the rule. And they knew to take me serious because I did it that one time where I put on the brakes and we turned around, and they're like, oh, mom's really serious about that, because I was not. And I also told them, no asking, when are we going to be there? Like, same type of thing. If you're going to ask them, we're just going to go home because I'm not going to play that game. And just setting those intentions and putting those hard stops right from the get go can really shut a lot of that down, because they want to go have fun too.
Yeah, you were spinning up a lot of ideas in my head as I was thinking, but when you were talking about the kids throwing the toys off the floor, so something that we did to help alleviate that is I bought them what we call their activity packs. So they're bags that actually attach to the back of the seat. And there's a lot out there, but it was one of the few things that I actually researched because the first time we had our big road trip was actually during COVID when we had to drive from Wisconsin all the way out to Seattle, which is probably about as far as we're going this trip as well. But that was like the first time, and we were doing that because my dad wasn't doing well, and I didn't want to fly with all five of us at the time. We had no idea all those things. There was reasons. So we drove out to Seattle, and so I was like, "What do I do?" And I actually spent weeks researching these bags because I wanted one that attached to the back, but then could come across and then still had a pouch. So I have all kinds of different ones. I want to make sure it could fold up and like, because when you're in the car, you want to make sure you can collapse everything. So, but long story short is that we've filled them up that time. And like I put new activities, I print all these sheets, all these road trip things and all those things. This day, now they take ownership of them. And I've never printed out another thing for it. And we might buy some new books or that they like, but we put them away as soon as we get home. Like they go just into the basement. So for the most part, they're always just ready to go because they don't look at them. They're new stuff. They never finish all this. I put way too much stuff in there. So I've never finished all of it, or they'll just add new stuff. And now it's like their job to redo. And then my husband's, my in-laws had given the kids art kits where they have the little pins that actually, it opens up and it kind of flips through. You can actually put pins into little slots. And so my husband actually had them fill out that for this trip because there's little pouches in there to put the markers and stuff, but then they're all over the place, right? Like you said, everything falling to the floor. This one, like you can put them in and out. And so the two girls love to just draw and do all these things. My son had it for a little while, but he hates looking down. So his pack kind of sits there. So we don't even take his anymore. But then my husband came up with the ideas. He's a Boy Scout and he has all these merit badges and camping coming. All of a sudden he was like, my husband's like, you can print out all your marriage badges stuff and like, be looking at that stuff and working on some of that stuff. And he just got so excited. So I think just finding projects that the kids are like interested in that like for each of them, like the girls are great with our activity bags. Bella, even for her birthday, which was yesterday, I had her sister, because I picked it out, buy little cats that you could sew. They're like the little ones that like you come together and you can just sew them around. She was just so excited. She's like, can I take these too? And like just finding things they're really excited about doing in the car just makes all the difference. And then it's sometimes like, can we get our TV packs out yet? Like, no, not time yet. And they're like, we're going to have to pack them up soon, so we can't take them out. So it's like, like just find that excitement in things that they like doing.
Right. For sure. Yeah. So what I did, so growing up, what we did is we didn't have all the activities and we'd have to drive to see my dad because he worked away from the house. Anyways, so we practiced the state and capitals and read road signs and kept it entertaining. And my mom, I know we touched on the food a little bit outside of the call. And so one of the things that my mom did is she would pack a loaf of bread. We'd have a loaf of bread, a package of cottage salami, and like mustard, just something super simple, and then a bag of snacks. And that was what we had. That was our lunch. So there's ways to pack and plan ahead of time. You're saying activities. Sometimes it's just getting out of the car, not setting. The other thing is not setting that, okay, it takes you 15 hours straight through, but doesn't mean you have to go straight through. So what I recommend is people plan out where almost every town has a little park. And if you can plan your trips around when you hit those towns and it's been a while, go find a park, whether you have a snack time or you just get out and play around, stretch your legs. And another way with like your trip where you're going to all these state parks is something that can be a cost effective rather than hotels all the time is a KOA. So of course it depends on how much room you have to pack and play, because you actually have to, you have to pack your bedding and stuff if you're doing the cabins or a tent and stuff. But it can be a really affordable way because they usually have breakfast, they have a pool, there's other ways and it just makes it more affordable, especially in these summer months.
Oh, I totally agree. And I didn't even think about the cabin aspect of it as well. I mean, just think about the ways that you can plan out your stops. And for me personally, I've given up on planning because like I said before, when we traveled around the world, there were a couple legs I tried to plan. They were kind of disastrous. I used to be a really good planner at trips but my husband, like I would pick all the on the go stuff. But yeah, you're right. But paying as much as you do. So we do have like horseback riding planned down Bryce Canyon, I believe, and things like that. So we know that those things are like planned along the way, and having some of the activities done. So the kids are looking forward to those things. And just when I was talking to another friend, she as you talk about your trips, she lives in Colorado where we'll be, and she suggested this. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but like there's an amusement park on top of a hill, on top of a mountain. And so we're going to go there now because I was talking to her and she suggested that. And so we have that planned in there. And so it's like having those conversations, getting out tips from people in those areas as well really helps. And just doing it ahead of time as much as you can. So now we've kind of brought up, let's talk a little bit about packing. Because as you were saying, like when you're doing all these stops, so how do you manage that? So one of the ways we do is we actually have more tubs than we have suitcases or anything, and we rotate them so that like you have the bulk of like your main clothes in like one big tub, but then we have like 3 days packed in one bag. So if you're going into a hotel or a KOA or anything, you're just taking the one bag into the hotel and like your toiletries and stuff versus everything from the car. And then when you get to like somewhere you're staying for 2 days or something, you might bring everything in to reshift everything. But it's keeping those things in mind where you're like shifting everything. And so like with the activity bags, we said so we have a tub just for that they're easy to get access. You can close it right back up if we're getting out of the car. We will be doing some overnight trips in the car, 3 of them actually. My husband's just good at like going long distance, and I just have to fill in a little bit when he needs to sleep. So we will be doing that. So then he came up with the idea. We usually would have blankets and pillows and stuff for them to do that in the car. Well, this year we have like rolled up sleeping bags that they can just pull out. So it's kept up less space, but it's still the same essence of them having their blankets. And so it's just working those things around and figuring out what you need. And again, you go with the idea, we do have our bread and our peanut butter jelly and stuff packed. And we have 2 like smaller tubs of food just ready to go. And then we'll have some snacks underneath the seats and things that are easily accessible, and then just keep rotating those things out. And then we were saying also, don't plan too much of the food ahead of time, as we were talking before, but to like then leave that also as another stretching opportunity, is to like just go to the grocery store for a half an hour and let them pick and restock. So you don't want to have too much ice, too much cooler, but plan that along the way that you're going to stop and do the grocery stopping, not necessarily all the fast food, and restock along the way. So you just have a small area of food, but that you're going to keep restocking, and then the kids can pick kind of things as they feel, rather than think, oh, this is what we have to eat. But like that can be one of your walking stops. Like we go to the grocery store for half an hour all together, so we're not buying too much that you guys can divvy up, and then that gets them out walking around as well and letting them have some ownership of what they want to eat as well. And that can be cost effective versus all the restaurants and fast food as well.
Oh yeah. Well, and then you can pick and choose what you're eating. And there's been times that we've not actually stayed anywhere. We've just stayed in the vehicle. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll find a major truck stop, because they often have paid for showers. So what's really nice is you need to get up and use the restroom. Like it's all in the truck stop. So we'll just sleep in the car and use that. And that has saved us a bunch, especially, if you have that intermittent, that little trip or whatever, and you just don't want to get a hotel because maybe you're arriving late and you're like, why pay for a hotel room for only a few hours and you're going to get up and go anyways? We would just find that truck stop, that major one that has the showers and stuff. And a lot of times they have a cafe. So if you do want to, splurge and have a little hot breakfast, they have usually better breakfast is convenience wise. And then and they're usually a lot more affordable sometimes than just a regular convenience, McDonald's or something, or just better food, I guess, and sometimes you get from them as well. So just another way to do, just get up, have a hot meal, take a shower, and get on the road again without having to pay for that hotel room and stuff like that.
I love that, because it really is just about thinking about what does your family, how do you guys travel well? So trying to think about those good days that you've had. What were some of the things that happened during those good days, and how do you make that happen again? Like, so again, this is all just that proactive thinking, that mindset, and planning ahead to like, how is packing the car in a more efficient like way to like not have to keep unloading and loading it going to help you feel more sane along the way, right? Like you said, looking for the truck stops, because I love the truck stop ones too as well. That they're going to be better bathrooms. You just know, like, and keeping that in mind with your stops and everything, and just having those things in mind. And actually, what was it? There's one app that we use on my husband's phone. I think it's called iStop or iText, or I don't know. I can't remember on the top of my head, but it actually like will show you all the exits on the freeways and what restaurants are there. And so you can either search for a particular
Oh,
restaurant
nice.
or you can just see what's coming up at the next stop. So we use that one all the time to say, because food is yet another one of ours. And we don't actually mind stopping at more than one place if we do stop for fast food or something. So we'll say like, okay, well, we can go to McDonald's and we can go to Subway, like giving them a little bit of variety, but we try not to do too many. But then that app really helps to say, okay, well, we're going to be hungry in about half an hour. Like, where's the best place between here and there to find what they want? And so something like that would be really helpful. It just tells you everything coming up, or you can search
Yeah.
for a particular place.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So that would be
Perfect.
a good way as well.
Yeah.
And again,
And
it's just figure out, kind of just make a list of all those things that you notice. Like for me, it was the movies, right? What are some of those things that you guys
right.
seem to fight over, and try to take the
Yeah.
decision making out when you're traveling. Try to do ahead of time where you're
Yeah.
clear mind, not tired, and your
Yeah.
traveling self will go, thank you for doing that. I'm too
Right.
tired to
Yeah,
make a decision.
absolutely. And then with that is also you want to make sure that you're teaching your kids along the way. So different things that I've done is if they have access to data, is allow them to follow the map on their tablet, or I'll actually get them out. I have an actual trucker's map because we used to travel a lot, and have them follow along so they could see when you're bumping through different states and they can see what's around and learn how to read a map, because that stuff can help them later in life that you're teaching them now as a fun stage, and then it can help them later down the road on their own journey on traveling as well.
You just reminded me of something I need to do, but before I mentioned that part, my husband did print out. We made little folders of each of the national parks, and they haven't been very interested in reading, but we figured that they'd be in the car and have a chance and to be able to look through them all. So you can get some guidebooks or things for the areas as well
Right.
for them to do that as well. The other thing that when we went to Yellowstone, there are descriptions and audio things you can use to help you drive around and give you little talks about what's going on in the area based on where you're at. And that reminded me that we talked about doing that, and I haven't looked at downloading it for these national parks coming up. But that was actually a really way when we're in the park, and it was telling you, and it also tells you where to turn for the places. Like
Oh, nice.
if you're gonna like want to go to this stop, you're going to turn this way, or you're going to keep going forward if you want to go here. Like when you're in the park, so you kind of like know where you're going, why you got to listen to what's going on around you and looking, so you're not so you get to enjoy it as well, even if you're driving. And so I found
Awesome.
those really help. And I think they have it more I'm sure they have big city ones and different things, but that's another idea, is get those audio descriptions as you're driving through places. Because now with GPS, they're easy to monitor you and tell you where you're at and tell you more about the place that you're at.
Right. Yeah. And for me, like going back to the maps, they were easier for my oldest. As he got older, actually gets car sick. And so with having the maps, and he can participate because he can't like read and do things like that in the car. And so it helped him, pass the time doing stuff like that as well. That didn't take the reading, so he could distract from that. So you have to be cognizant of what are the people in the car, what can they and can they not do. So that's another thing too.
Speaking of getting sick or needing that, also recommend also make sure you have lots of gum for like going up and down, or lollipops. Lollipops are good for the little ones too, just with the ear pressure and stuff when you're going through the mountains or things like that. And with the car sick, kind of explain the kids explore which position in the car works better for them. It's like my son does better in the middle, so we just never put him in the back, where the girls fight over going in the back first, together. So it's like thinking those strategies out ahead of time as well, and just
Mhm.
having those available. So I was in the grocery store last night and I was like, we have some gum. He's like, we don't have enough. Like we need more. Like that keeps them occupied, get the sugar-free gum, and just like that helps with the ears and the pressure when you're
Yeah.
going up and down through the hills. And then they're quiet. And so
Yeah.
again, just
Yeah.
thinking that all
that
through.
brings up Yeah, that brings up a good point too, because because I live in a mountainous range, and we always, even if we travel to go camping, we often our shampoo and stuff has a mind of its own. So I actually go and I put a plastic bag, I unscrew the lid, put a plastic bag, and screw the lid back on, because the pressure changes will make those things explode. Like when you open them, all of a sudden it's all pouring out all over you. And so it's just different little things. You got to know where you're traveling and little tips and tricks. And some of it I've switched to bar soap, bar shampoo and stuff instead, just to help save on that chaos as well.
Another trick for toiletries as well is that is like the bane of my existence is packing toiletries. So what we did was we just bought like a tub, like a smaller, tub and I just bought everything for that tub. And so I can just grab and go and not have to pack. If we use it over, I don't have to restock it. But that way I'm not having to like find all that stuff and repack it every time. And so just having a specific travel one that you just pick up and go. I still always have to check it, but yesterday I was like, wow, this took me 10 minutes. It used to take me like an hour, and I hated like putting it all together and like getting all that stuff. And now it's just like, The only thing is really just pulling the toothbrushes in the morning now. It's already packed in the car. But yeah, if that's something you don't like doing, or you can just make a designated travel toiletry thing that is just comes and goes with you and you don't have to deal with it or think about it and just have to restock. The restocking usually takes 10 minutes or just, have to order stuff. But like that has been such a lifesaver because I hate doing that.
Yeah, I do that with all my travels, have a separate bag that's already in my suitcase, ready to go.
So, those are such great ideas but I think we've talked everyone's ear off about travel for today.
Right.
We could go on forever, but on that note, I will be releasing at least one blog is about summer bucket list shortly, and 2 more will be kind of putting this all in there. And this video will be attached to those blogs as well on connectingmamas.com. Those will be released in the next week or so as I'm traveling and adding stuff in there. And I'm making myself do this. I'll be documenting this trip on Instagram starting today, I think, when we leave, and talking about some of the packing and things just to get started with it. And that's at mama_connector on Instagram. If you want to see more about traveling to 8 national parks in 2 weeks, how to do it.
Yeah, you'll need a whole nother week of vacation after that trip. Sounds like a lot of fun, though, and a lot of memories for sure. For sure. And you can't replace them. My kids still talk about stuff where we've been and things we've done, and they're teenagers, and this was stuff we've done when they were young, really little. So, those memories really stick with them, even if have rough patches. There's still a lot more.
My goal for this Christmas is to buy one of those state scratch off maps, and to go through all the places that we've been and start to mark them off, because I think. We've been to a lot of different places, but mostly we go through the same states, so we can keep a trip and then base our trips based on where we haven't seen or where we might want to go still as a family, and start when Lily was born, so it's all of us and where we've been together, not just 1 or 2. That'll be for Christmas. I'm deciding that now, declaring that.
Setting the intentions early. Nothing wrong with Christmas shopping all year. That's what I usually recommend, to spread out the cost or spend more on birthdays instead of Christmas. But that's a topic for a whole nother day of ways to save.
That might be our next topic. Who knows?
Yeah. Ways to save on giving gifts for sure.
And feel free to put in the comments of any of these, any topics or things you would like us to discuss or things that you want to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have a fabulous vacation, and all you out there, make sure you get out and enjoy some nature and make some memories this year.
Family memory making is what it's all about. Bye, everyone.
See you.